another thing we wanted to talk about, Benji, I just saw this come across on Twitter. Richard Carapaz has been disqualified from Liège, Bastogne, Liège. Now, it's of no moment because he was caught and didn't get a good result anyway, but with 19 kilometers to go, and I'm showing you the image on the YouTube video now, he entered what looked like a supertuck position to me, and I thought it was a supertuck. His hands were on his bars and his butt was kind of off his saddle, and you couldn't see from the angle too well whether he was touching the top tube or not. But yeah, what do you think about this disqualification, Benji? Did you see it from a different angle where you could see him above the top tube?
For me, it looks like it's touching him, but I can't tell it. I'm pretty sure he's above the top tube. Like, he's way too high to be on the top tube here, on the picture that I'm looking at least. From what I can tell, the only thing I can say is that technically it looks like he's touching the saddle. It looks like he's in the drops. It looks like he's not touching the top tube. It's obviously looking for the borders and the edges of the UCI rules here, but on paper I'd say this is completely allowed by the current rule. And yeah, I'd say that it's not really disqualifiable, even though it's obviously looking for the plot holes in the rule, which is something that will happen if you've got huge plot holes in the rules, as we've said multiple times. But next to that, it also just doesn't look like a very comfortable position, to be honest.
I know. Is it even aero? Let me try and find the rule, Benji. So this is the new rule that came in on the 1st of April. Position on the bicycle. Riders must observe the standard position as defined by Article 1.3.08, which I'll put up on the screen, but I'm not going to look at right now. But it's not really relevant. It just means like sitting in a standard position. More important point. Sitting on the bicycle's top tube is prohibited. Furthermore, using forearms as a point of support is prohibited. But he's not doing the forearms thing. So it's sitting on the bicycle's top tube. And maybe they got images, Benji, that he was sitting on the top tube. I mean, if he's in that position for a fair amount of time, maybe, I mean, I don't want to make a crass joke, but if he's not on the top tube, then I don't know what he's using as a means of support. Looks really uncomfortable. If he's not touching the top tube, it looks like his thighs might be squeezing them. So do you think his thighs are squeezing the top tube, Benji, and that's sort of using it as a means of support? Do you think the UCI have even thought into it that deeply, or they're just like, nah, kind of looks like a supertuck, ban?
Yeah, I think that what's curious about all of this is that we have these rules vaguely written in the rule book, and then the riders have received a PowerPoint presentation that included a few pictures of what you can do and what you can't do. And that's another example, like I think the rider that was disqualified for using his forearms for support but had his pinky on his brakes.
Alexander.
Yeah, Richardson. That was a disqualification, and in that PowerPoint presentation, it indeed was labeled as you can't do this. But the thing is, there's a problem to this because those images are not in the rules. And how is that usable if they're not in the rules? Unless there's another rules book that we don't know about.
And it's not like putting the lawyer hat on. It's not like I don't know about what you all do in civil law land, which makes no sense to me. But in Australia, you can have law as enacted by Parliament and then regulations underneath, which are subordinate to the actual parliamentary legislation, but do have actual binding force. They can be like created more flexibly by like governing bodies or departments, etc. You know, so you have a rule: you can't drive down the street in a particular fashion, and then the regulations, which the legislation will refer to, which is a key point Benji's making, the actual rules, in his sense, should refer to the diagrams in regulation XYZ show diagrammatically the permitted and not permitted positions and flesh it out further, and they can be changed from time to time. So we don't have that. We just have a PowerPoint presentation that comes to light after the fact, not really shared with the media, not that anyone would share anything with us anyway. But that's the Carapaz disqualification. Didn't really change the outcome of Liège. Just another data point in that riders trying to be sneaky will get relegated or disqualified. And to be honest, I'm not surprised. I thought they were going to disqualify him. Just like the Richardson thing, I feel like if you're deliberately pushing the grey areas and it looks kind of unsafe, you're going to get done. Seems to be the flavour of the month.
I think there's a difference here that if the Richardson thing was actually like, in the rule itself, it says that you can't use your form arms as support in the Richardson thing. So that is literally on paper. So that...
Yeah, and he was using them as support.
Yeah. So that's, for me, the difference between the two cases, personally. But yeah,
maybe
I'm not a
Benji,
lawyer. You are.
Is there a supertuck diagram somewhere? Does anyone want to send us a supertuck diagram? Poor old Carapaz. Yeah. But yeah, I thought he was going to get done. Maybe someone's got better images that they can show us where they can see him on the top tube. But these guys have all been practicing it. I remember the first day it came in, Wout van Aert was practicing a sort of revised aero position. But yeah, that's a bit, not a shame, just interesting and more things for us to talk about.